So, The Sims 2's anniversary is coming up. It's now only in a matter of days, and the game's gonna be turning 20. So, I thought I'm gonna talk about one of my favorite childhood sites that are also connected to the game. But before we begin that, this is Wayback Machine. That explains why the site looks a bit wonky, but just so you know, the site was always sort of leaning to one side because this is a video from, about 12 years ago about how to download Sims for hairstyles from like the exchange. But as you can see, there's quite a lot of blue on like one side compared with the rest of the site. So it's not just the Wayback Machine being clunky, that's just how the site was. For better viewing experience, we're gonna stare at a blurry image instead for a bit of a portion of this video. I apologize for that. So then, let's begin. On the 14th of September 2004, The Sims 2 got to see the world with it. The site thesims2.ea.com was born. If you're new to The Sims world, then imagine the site to be very similar to The Sims 4 Gallery, except that it was more disconnected from the game, however, more connected to our hearts, especially for people that kinda grew up with it. Similar to people that grew up with Tumblr or MySpace, for that matter. You see, the Sims 2 official site did not come with just a place to share your Sims and lots, but also stories. This was the exchange corner, and you could get it here through pressing the exchange button, which is how I got in here. But once again, because we're using Wayback Machine, it really depends on what got saved and what didn't. And obviously, a lot of the things didn't get saved. It was quite easy to do, to share stories, I mean, considering that the game comes with an inbuilt story builder that allowed you to lay out your pictures, give them text, select the cover, the name, and then hit upload. It was very, very, very easy to make a story with The Sims 2, so a lot of people were doing it, and judging from one of the story exchange saved pictures that still have at least like some depiction of what the stories were here at the time, have such great hits as Yucky Lips. The quality really varied, like story to story. That's why the ranking system was there. So like some things could have like 5 stars, some things could have like 1 star, and it was really a be all end all sort of thing. Some people would be like talking about their gameplay and their legacy challenges or challenges in general. Some people would be like creating actual like general fiction. Some people would be writing fan fiction. Some people would be writing guides. It was the one tool for everything word related. So, what do you get when you put many children, teenagers, and adults in front of a creative tool that allows you to upload your Sims, custom content and all, lots, and stories? Creations. Many, many creations. What happens when new creations get released every day by your fellow game players? A community forms. A whole subset of people had close to 9 years of their lives when they could, as part of their routine, log into a site and read entirely new creative writing exercises that ranged from people describing the challenges that they're playing and how they're doing to fanfics to entirely unique stories. Were these stories all that good? Well, judging from Yucky Lips, probably not. However, it captured our imaginations and have spurred us to make our own and improve the writing that we did as we went along. I remember myself trying to write one of these stories. Like, I wrote my legacy challenge progress, but I didn't understand what the word legacy meant, so I spelled it like legalicy. It's really unfortunate that all of those like things from tiny small Mirta are actually not saved anywhere online, even though it would be very cringe to look back at, because once again, this is a dead site. It is not a site that's up or existing anymore. It is a site that was taken down a while ago. And I also remember trying to write a story about a wishing well and how I had several lots just as like the setup for the story. Like, I legitimately were not building houses in that game, I was building sets. It didn't matter how some sites looked, all it mattered was that it looked good for the picture, because once again, you're doing a creative writing exercise. I really, really enjoyed that. It is such a shame that The Sims 3 kind of pulled away from that because their story and the whole picture system in game became a lot more clunky, if I remember correctly. And The Sims 4 just doesn't even have that inbuilt anymore. I remember this website being such a part of my life that even when I did not have access to my computer for long periods of time, I would pay an hourly fee at an internet cafe just so that I could check if any new stories came out that I personally would feel attracted to. Spoiler: 10-year-old Mirta was very heavily into anything vampire related that you could find on the Sims 2 forums. Who would have guessed? Certainly not me, 20 years later, looking the way that I do. Definitely nobody could have ever told that that is where my interests would have been leaning in childhood. Definitely not. On the 14th of January 2013, EA has permanently taken the sims2.ea.com down, and with it went hundreds of thousands of creations. And when I say hundreds of thousands of creations, I mean it. I am here using the Wayback Machine's snapshot, like capture, of the exchange for The Sims 2 from 2012 December, because the last capture from 2013, early 2013, doesn't work for me, which means that the last usable capture that we have, at least for me, is 2012 December. And look at the numbers. Total Sims uploaded into the exchange: 241,000, nearly 242,000. The pet exchange had 40,000 pets. The lot exchange had 31,000 lots, nearly 32,000 lots. Now, the object exchange, I'm pretty sure, was like Max's exclusive. This is where they put their freebie stuff that they were like giving away to the community to download for free. And the total objects in here are 39. But the story exchange, there's 171,000 stories. Just imagine that number. That is huge. And that includes everything from like the lowliest shit to the best executed story that you could have ever seen. And it was everyone's project. Everyone just like came together and they shared, and it was a really amazing thing to perceive if you were there. And if you had the chance to remember it or capture it in some way, shape, or form, which is what I'm gonna be doing a bit later in the videos. We're actually gonna read a couple of stories that have survived. There is a storage? There is a website that stores a couple thousand of them, I would say, that are still like complete and intact, that they could fetch from the exchange while the exchange was still up and existing. So yeah, that exists, at least for the time being, but considering that the total number was 171,000, stories, think of how many was lost. And then, as a thought exercise, imagine The Sims 4 without gallery feature, because I guarantee you they're gonna take that offline too. And if you're gonna build that kind of multiplayer functionality into a game where a lot of people get to like share their creations, when you take that site down, you really hurt what's left of the game. There are people, or at least there were people, focused on preserving what the site was. For example, Miss Maxoid at LiveJournal here had decided to preserve all of like the official uploads that she could find through even like different promotions, like the Polish promotion, the German promotion, all the freebies that the Sims 2 team have posted over the years. That is what they focused on, and this live journal is not too bad for it. I'm not entirely sure how well the download links still work because their last post was from January 2015. I suppose you can always try it, but they just tried to preserve what was uploaded to the Sims 2 site as freebies, and even uploaded to the Sims 2 site as freebies from like different countries, because there were a couple of differences. There were like different promotions in different countries. So there are like some objects that were exclusive to German people, some objects that were exclusive to Polish people, that sort of thing. Then there's such uploads as The Sims 2 Exchange Sample 1 on archive.com. Download with your own risk. It's a 2 gigabyte file that's zipped, so not entirely 2 gigabytes, like it expands into more. And from what I understand, the creator of the archive just grabbed all that they could and moshed it together into one 2 gigabyte file. I'm pretty sure that like The Sims 2 Exchange Sample 2 exists too, so there's a way to sort of peruse what was on there like that, but it's once again a very mishmash grab bag of whatever the creator managed to grab and shove into a file. The last preservation project, the one that I will need to switch into Chrome, I'm gonna visit it in a second, but the last preservation project, the one with the stories, is something that we will linger on today. Clockwatching.net is a website dedicated to hosting thousands of stories from The Sims 2 that could still be preserved. If you want to walk through the graveyard of creative writing and sharing your game progress online in mid-2000s, the link is in the description down below, together with all of the other 2 links that I have just shown. I've selected a few stories. I don't know what they are yet, as I have not read them, but I thought we could read them together in memory of what the site once was. And once again, if you want to like go to the website and scroll through the stories yourself, please do so. Like, investigate at the very least the fossil that still remains, and just imagine all of what's not there anymore and how much more there was. Hello everybody, welcome back to Chrome. Now that I have switched over, this is the clockwatching.net Jack as to reader, which is, once again, it used to pull the stories from the exchange, but the exchange is now permanently down. So this is all that there is, or all that there will ever be, which is, to be fair, quite the compilation. But there could have been more. And if you're also confused why I wasn't on camera for like the first section, well, I kind of scripted the video, and if you're looking at your script during the video, like I can demonstrate it, it's kind of very obvious that you're doing it. So instead you got to see the glory of the Sims 2 websites. Hooray! But anyways, now we are at the story reading part, so I thought I may as well hop over. I'm gonna read 3 stories. I have selected them entirely randomly. If you can see, there's quite a few stories in here, like the old medieval legacy that are obviously just like people registering their gameplay. I tried to click on a few that looked like it wasn't just people registering their gameplay, but was like actual creative writing exercises. But we're gonna see. Once again, I have not read them. This is an example as to what I grew up with and what was there at like mid 2000s from like the creative community of The Sims 2, and I can't imagine a better way of celebrating that game's birthday. I'm gonna make probably another video on The Sims 2 in general, like directly on the date of its birthday, but for now, let's engage. So, this is Angel by Mr. Plumbob 36. When the world falls apart around you, what do? Sit and avoid the debris. Angel. Welcome to Angel's story. I am still writing. Learn to live, final part, teehee. But due to the technical faults with the lot, I'm writing a new story. It's really short because it's just a prologue, but I think I'll get the point across. Note, mild profanity, no swearing, but slightly rude words. Quite a bit of violence, and a bit of a gory picture. Thanks. Hopefully I don't need to censor it for YouTube, because YouTube is like extra sensitive, more sensitive than the Sims 2 site would have been. Like, you can see this person was using quite a bit of custom content, because that's very obviously custom hair. A lot of people involve like custom content and custom editing of pictures into their stories. This is like really like reading people's like MySpace pictures, like, you know, sites, or like reading people's Tumblr stuff. Like, this is a very, very similar vibe. Fixed my green screen. Okay, let's proceed. Just as long as your daddy don't leave, we'll be okay. Angeline remembered those words since the first time her mother first sobbed them into her ear. Just as long as your daddy don't leave. I don't know if people actually talk like that, or if that's because the person that wrote this was probably pretty young. The first time she said it, it was when she was at the tender age of 2. Her father had run in the house drunk as hell. "Where's my dinner, woman?" Billy yelled. Oh yes, Billy the dad. "I'm sorry, Billy, I'm cooking it now," Jane trembled. "What you good for anyway?" He waved the 2 whiskey bottles threateningly, and somebody either positioned a game existing bottles into the hands of this sim, or they downloaded custom content for that too. The contents spilled onto the already stained floor. We can't see it because we can see the already stained cabinet instead, which is facing the entryway. Angel sat on the floor, watching in fear as her young mind began to take in this new experience. Slowly, she took a hand out of her mouth as she began to wail. Loud sobs filled the room as the poor child got even more worked up. Face turning red, she watched as her drunkard father stumbled towards her. "What the hell is all this noise about? Oh my god!" Elaine ran out of the shared bedroom and watched as her baby sister was about to get beaten by their violent father. She ran closer and came between the man and the baby. She is currently huddling behind the baby, but we're just gonna imagine it. "Daddy, no, please, Daddy," she begged as she watched her father get ready to strike. He lifted him arm and thumped her face. It was the first time he had ever hit his daughter. I can't imagine using thumped in a sentence, and it makes this sentence seem a lot less grave. So I approve of its usage. It is also quite interesting that this very obviously very young looking father, either that or the dude wears makeup, that, you know, don't mind me. Don't mind the pretty CC for The Sims 2. He thought about hitting the baby before he thought about hitting the teenage daughter. Billy, no! Jane screamed at her husband to stop. He kept hitting his daughter until she bled. I suppose it felt good, like the first time you thump, you just can't stop. Don't you start, woman. Next, he turned to his wife. Put Angel to bed. She shouldn't see this, Jane told Ellie in an authoritative voice. Please, she added, like the kind woman that she was. There, baby. Daddy won't hurt you. No, he won't. Ellie spoke through tears. She turned away and fell onto her own bed with a thump. Everything in this household happens with a thump. They do be thumping quite a lot. God, her face hurt. An hour later, the children heard a thump. The third thump in the story. There's a lot of thumping. As their mother fell to the floor, and the slam of the door as their father went out again. We were pretty brutal when we were creating stories in Sims. As either children or teenagers, I would assume that this person wasn't that old when they wrote this. Ellie left the safety of their bedroom to nurse their mother. Her face was badly bruised, but she was okay. Ellie was scared nonetheless. She herself had a large bruise covering the side of her face. Damn him! Ellie's hostilities were understandable. She had been left to look after people for the last 2 years, ever since Angel was born and this had started. She couldn't hate him any more than she did now. Is damn like the mild profanity that the person was speaking about? That is very mild. Oh wow, we're wearing a lot of makeup. In the morning, Angeline woke with the sun pouring through the window. Her sister had gone to school after putting a full face of makeup on her, and her father to work, and she was at home with her mother. She picked her up and smiled as though she had not a care in the world. The only indication that last night wasn't a nightmare were the bruises on her face. 5 years later, also, perhaps if you're trying to cover the bruises, put the makeup on yourself, not your toddler, but that's just a suggestion, so don't mind me. Damn this sink! Jane yelled as she tried to stem the water flowing from the faucet. I'll help you, Mommy. 7-year-old Angel mopped the floor. Angel was a strange girl for her age. Instead of playing with her friends, she would sit and help around the house. Because of this, Angel was bullied at school despite her high intelligence and good looks. Good looks on a 7-year-old. That's an interesting statement to make. Sweetie, go do some painting. Are you sure? Okay, Mommy. Angel sat in front of the canvas propped up by the wall. She picked up the paint set that she had been given as a prize from the school and began to paint. All her worries had gone as she painted a lake and some grass. Hours later, the painting was done and Angel heard her sister come home. I think that is the easel prop rather than the easel itself, and then I think they just photoshopped the image of the painting on top. I suppose they didn't want her standing on an easel because it wasn't picturesque enough. All right, Billy barged in through the door. Who took my whiskey? The man was clearly furious. Of course your 7-year-old drank it. Daddy, you drank it all, Angel managed to stammer. He stomped up to where she was sitting. You insolent little cow. Mild profanity. He spat the words out and spittle landed her face. Spittle landed her face? Landed on her face, I imagine. I'm sorry, Daddy. She was in tears now. She was scared of what he would do. From this close, she could see fire in the man's eyes. It was only going to get worse from now. Run, Angel, run! Elaine screamed at her sister. The 18-year-old looked to her mother for assurance, but got nothing but the sight of her frightened eyes pouring with tears as Billy pulled her from the sofa and started hitting. Elaine couldn't do anything but watch or run. She chose a run. Ellie, I'm so scared. Angel's voice shook with her tears as they heard the screams of their innocent mother. You know what, Angel? Me too. I'm going to take a peek to see if she's okay. You stay here, Ellie replied after a massive crash. She looks still alive. She's fine. Don't worry about it. Oh my god, Ellie stumbled back into the bedroom. Angel, I think he killed her. I think you might want to go out of the house. Oh yes, a very brutal image in here with blood splatter painted on. If was true, the woman was on the floor covered in blood. If true, then it was also true that her heart had stopped beating. Yeah, I'm pretty sure that's how death works. The end of the prologue. I hope you enjoyed this story. If you did, rate appropriately and maybe sign my guest work. Rosie XOXOXO. Well, there wasn't O's, there was just X's. I forgot. Is it like hugs and kisses? Oh. Are X's just the kisses? Yeah, I'm not super good at internet lingo, but as you can see, the stories were fun, dark, but definitely written not by a seasoned writer's hand, but by someone that's practicing writing on the Sims 2 website, which is why it was so great. Let's read Forgotten Memory Part 1 by Browper14. The mother of two twins finds the perfect guy on the perfect holiday smiley face. Categories: romance, Sims life stories. Hello and welcome to, drumroll, my second story, XD. That was kinda lame. But anyway, I shall tell you a tale of a single mother raising twins, and how she meets the perfect guy on a perfect holiday. Read and don't forget to rate. Mwah. P.S. I haven't proofread, so you might see a stack of spelling mistakes, but hey, still readable, and currently still preserved for forever. It all started on a hot sunny holidays in the south of some city beach. These are the Bartos, Janelle, and her daughters, Ella in the pink and Ebony in the blue. Ebony spelled with an E-Y? Ella and Ebony are twins who never met their father before, and the only way you could tell them apart is their eyes. Ella has gray eyes, while Ebony has blue and green eye. They just recently turned 12 and are spending summer break at the beach with their beloved mother. Janelle is 33 years old and had Ella and Ebony when she was 21. She never really finished college, but her girls are what comes first to her. She would do anything for them. Now, if that was college, the UK system, that would be between the ages of 16 to 18. If you mean college to mean university, then 18 to 19, year 1, 19 to 20, year 2, 20 to 21. Year 3, I suppose 19 to 20, year 1 if she hasn't like finished it. So maybe she started school a bit late or graduated a bit late or something and then just didn't complete the last year because going by UK system, the last year would have it's 3 years when I went to university, but maybe it's 4 in America. I don't know. I don't know what your education system is, to be fair, so if you're an American, feel free to comment about that. That night, standing around the rocks, the girls stared silently into the distance. They stood in a comfortable silence. The silence was a frequent visitor of sorrow and peace. Thinking of nothing but what tomorrow will bring. Okay, girls, I think it's time for bed, okay? A big sigh was heard, and then the two stood up. Don't forget to brush your teeth. I'll be there in a bit, okay? Don't worry, Mom, we will be okay. Ella smiled at her mom and dragged Ebony towards the bathrooms. Janelle smiled as she watched the two girls run off. That night, Janelle went into the bathrooms and washed up. There was another guy who she hasn't seen earlier that day in the bathroom with her. That's quite the place to meet. She wondered if he just arrived. Wouldn't hurt to ask, she thought to herself. They're unisex bathrooms and they're apparently um, like the separate cabin style. So that's pretty rare. So she decided to ask. She quietly tapped the man on his shoulder while in the bathroom. Not creepy at all. He turned around and faced her. Yes? I was wondering, did you arrive just now? To wear this bathroom? Yes, actually. I intend on staying here for a week. Oh, I see. Sorry if I bothered you. Oh, no, you didn't. I mean, you weren't. Janelle smiled and decided to get his name if they were going to be there all week. I'm sorry, but I didn't catch your name. I'm Glenn. Glenn White. Nice to meet you. I'm Janelle Berto. What a pretty name. Are you here with your boyfriend? Janelle blushed at the compliment and quickly answered, Nope, no boyfriend, just my daughters. Janelle lowered her head after Glenn's shocked expression. Daughters? You're a mother? Yes, I am. They're both 12. Twins, actually. She turned red out of embarrassment and refused to meet his gaze. Wow, you look so young. How old are you? I'm 33, she managed to stammer. Wow, you're still pretty young. I'm 34, only 1 year older. This is totally how you have adult conversations, kids. And yes, you sometimes meet your boyfriend in the communal bathrooms, apparently. And then it is entirely normal to tap the person on the shoulder and to open with something fairly intrusive, like, you just arrived? What, to the bathrooms? Do you meet here people in here often, And then just like reveal all of your like family history right there and then, and look embarrassed about having kids, like it's some sort of crime. She finally had the courage to look up again and meet his smiling face. His smile was so real she couldn't help but smile back. Do you want to hang out or something tonight? Very adult conversation happening in here. Janelle wasn't sure if she truly believed all of this. Tonight at 1 a.m. Yeah, oh, I see. So you met the guy in the bathrooms at 1 a.m. and you're like, this is the right time to strike up a conversation. I really should be with Ella and Ebony. I understand, maybe some other time. Janelle had to make a quick decision. Wait, I'm sure the girls will be fine alone. My 12-year-old girls don't need parental supervision at nighttime, apparently. Just for an hour or so. Glenn's entire face lit up as he tried to hide his excitement that he is gonna go on a date with a toilet lady in the middle of the night. Okay, 1 hour, I promise, that's all. Janelle smiled, and with that, they both walked out together. It was amazing how much you could do at 1 a.m. Where? Please, I need the name of the location so that I would know. First, Glenn brought them some late dinner, early breakfast, or as Glenn liked to call it, Brenner, which made Janelle chuckle. They spoke to each other about their past. Glenn hadn't been married before, but had had his heart broken by so many girls. He told her about his family interests and how he was a doctor. Meeting chicks at a bathroom at 1 a.m. It made Janelle feel like she was the only girl on earth. It was crazy. They had just met and were getting along like they had known each other for years. And that's what they both felt like. After they had finished their so-called Brenner, Glenn leaned over and took Janelle by their hand. Let me show you something, he said, and directed the hand to his pee-pee with a twinkle in his eye. Janelle couldn't say no after such a good meal. Practice saying no. You can definitely say no after such a good meal. Like, when a stranger tells you, wanna say something at 2 a.m.? Maybe not. He led her off to somewhere Janelle hadn't seen before. That's not a good sign. It was a little sand trail surrounded with bushes, but not just any bushes. tidy bushes. She knew she was safe by this, knowing that it was a local place. Girl, it's the middle of the night. You're alone in the woods with a guy. It doesn't matter how tidy the bush is. They didn't make much eye contact as they walked out, but their hands brushed against each other, and they would both look the opposite direction and blush uncontrollably, as you do when you're 33 and 34 years old. It was amazing. A pond full of fireflies that glowed and made the atmosphere look so romantic. I have a feeling it was written by like a 13-year-old, and they don't have the best safety precautions in their romance. Wow, it's so beautiful. She turned around and saw Glenn. I thought you might have liked it, he said with a big white smile. May I have this dance? He held his hand out. If I have to, she said sarcastically and gave him a wink. She stared into his deep brown eyes. He is so perfect, she thought to herself. They didn't break their glance and stared deeply into each other's eyes while dancing without music. That feels like a true nightmare to someone very socially awkward like me. Glenn started moving toward Janelle, and she didn't know what she was doing, but she leaned forward and met his kiss. Come on, this woman had 2 children. She definitely knew what she was doing. The two stayed that way for a minute and then stared into each other's eyes. Little did they know that their 1 hour had finished 4 hours ago. Janelle broke the silence with, Glenn, I have to go. Ella and Ebony will be waking up soon, she said while pointing to the rising sun. Well, at least let me walk you back, he said with a grin approaching his face. What expression is when a grin is approaching your face but isn't there yet? I need to know for story purposes. Things really couldn't get any better. Thank you so much, Glenn, Janelle said as she got pulled for a hug. For what? This couldn't have happened without you. If you hadn't spoken to me in the middle of the bathroom, I wouldn't have thought that this was appropriate, you know? But you're what made it so amazing, she replied. Want to do something again tomorrow? Of course, I will see you tomorrow. See ya, gorgeous. Or, Georges, he said, and winked. Next morning at breakfast, Glenn met up with Janelle. Hey, Janelle blushed and looked down at her plate. Is something wrong? Glenn noticed Janelle pushing her food around her plate. Nothing's wrong, nothing at all. She put on one of her best fake smiles and forced herself to eat. If you sure? I'm sure. Then would you like to do something together today? She looked up at him, looked into his hopeful eyes. Yes, I would be happy to. He smiled and quickly kissed her cheek. For breakfast, they had a jello cube from the looks of it, which is a dessert. After breakfast, they found somewhere quiet and chatted amongst themselves a bit more. Janelle told Glenn more about her girls. I have to meet them, he said with a grin. Well, come on then. You weren't going to meet them just standing here. She took his hand and it stayed there during their short walk to her summer village house. This woman is so sex deprived that she is bringing her boy toy that she knew for like a night to meet her 12-year-old daughters. They got to Janelle's place and she introduced Glenn to Ella and Ebony. They both loved him right away. He was fun-loving and enjoyed being around the girls almost as much as being around Janelle. This doctor enjoys the company of 12-year-olds. Today went fast. Glenn got to know the girls and was totally in love with them. Uh-oh, that's not a good sign. They look so much like you, Janelle, that is a creepy thing to say, considering the context. She smiles and leaned down at her girls. They had a blast, and soon it was night yet again. Glenn leaned in to kiss Janelle, but she moved so he kissed her cheek. The girls were right there after all. Good night, Janelle. Good night, girls. He hugged each one. Bye bye, Glenn. The girls chanted together. Oh boy, the creepiness of this scene. Bye bye, Glenn. But like twice through like two voices at the same time. Janelle smiled with pleasure as she saw him head toward his campsite. Hey, Mom, I haven't seen you smile like that since I don't remember. Ella looked at Ebony as if to say, Do you? I don't remember either, Ebony. Oh well, it's nice to see you fell in love. Girls, go to bed. Janelle laughed and started to shoo them off. The girls giggled and ran over to their campsite. This woman is so socialization deprived that she could fall in love in a singular night with a strange guy that she picked up in the bathroom and just like decided to go to private like off places with him. And if I am correct at guessing, I think the edge over here, the little black. Oh yeah, this is the pool. I thought that this might have been the person's monitor because the picture is a bit blurry, so I wasn't sure if they took it in game. Janelle woke up late that night and left her campsite. She stretched and looked around. Her eyes rested upon Glenn sitting near the beach as the reef came in. The reef came in? Reefs do that? She walked up behind him and sat down. Why are you up so late? Glenn smiled and looked at Janelle. I should ask you the same thing. Glenn laughed and ran his fingers through his hair. Couldn't sleep, I guess. Same here. She clasped her hands together and looked into the sea. Tomorrow I leave, Janelle. Tomorrow? No, you weren't leaving till the end of the week. I know, but I was called earlier and told it was an emergency. This doctor is required for an emergency in about 2 days, considering that he's leaving tomorrow and then he's taking the time traveling to like reach his place. So, when are you leaving tomorrow? 6 a.m. sharp to catch my plane. Janelle stood up and turned away. She couldn't let him see her crying now. Glenn walked over to her slowly and lightly touched her arm. She whirled around and wrapped her arms around him. He sighed and hugged back. They started to sway back and forth, rocking in their arms. I don't want you to go away, she sobbed. I don't want to leave you. Janelle's tears began to flow as she sobbed into his shoulder. It's okay. How is it okay when we can't be together? He sighed and pulled away from her. He took her hands in and was like, Bitch, we have phones. No, but like, Janelle, I just want you to know I had the time of my life here with you. I'm glad I met you. He whipped a tear from her. He wiped, wiped, spelled with a WH, from her face and smiled. We will find each other again, I promise. Guys, like, I don't know, exchange living locations, exchange phone numbers, exchange something. Don't say it, please. It will make it harder. Janelle swallowed her words and pulled away from Glenn. I guess this is a goodbye then. I guess so. Tell the girls I said goodbye. I will. With a heavy sigh, Glenn walked off to pack his clothes and belongings. At the very least, he's like leaving earlier than I thought. He will only take like a day to travel, but if you're having that kind of an emergency, I think you need a doctor faster than that. Later that day, after Glenn had left, the girls asked where he was. A pained look crossed Janelle's face. He's gone. Oh, when is he coming back? Ella looked eagerly at her mother. He's not. Janelle choked up and tears streamed down her perfectly tanned face. This is why you don't bring your fucktoy to your children after meeting him for one night. Did you guys break up? Ella looked at Janelle, then to Ebony. No, he had an emergency. Maybe tell them that he's a doctor and that the emergency isn't his. Did you get his number? Ebony demanded and glared at her mom. Janelle solemnly shook her head and looked down at her perfect daughters. Ebony's eyes widened. How could you not? Girls, stop it. Be ready to leave tonight. It's about time we returned home. But Mum, Ella gave her mum a puppy eyes and started to beg. Please let us stay. The answer is no. Now go back. Come on, Elle. Let's go. Ebony looked at her mom and ran after Ella. Did they like have an amount of time that they were supposed to be on the vacay? Like, are you cutting your family vacay short because you met a fucktoy and that didn't work out? To be continued. Will Janelle ever see Glenn again? Will life for Janelle go back to normal again with no man in their life? Will the girls grow up with no father figure? Who knows? Part 2, duh! Stay tuned for more. Any questions? Email me at... I'm not gonna say it out loud. It is on screen. It is on the website. But I'm not entirely sure if that email address would still be active, considering that that account name would obviously be created by someone very young, and it is very unclear if they would still be using it. But hey, if you want to inform them that their story was read for however amount of people watch this video, could be 10 for all I know, then, try it, I guess. Thank you, Telex. P.S. Don't forget to rate. Smiley face. You see why this is like such a gem frozen in time? And how much of a shame it is that our first attempts at writing got just like taken off the internet. And I have obviously selected one vampire story, just like for good old time's sake. I had like a couple of favorite vampire stories on there that honestly I remember very little about. Outside that, one of them was about some sort of woman who was the last family member of her line, except for like some vampire that gets, I don't know, magical powers or some bullshit if he annihilates his whole like line because he was cursed or whatever. And if he turns her into a vampire, he succeeds. Obviously, if he murders her, he would also succeed, but that wouldn't be as fun, I guess. So she's like protected by this knight dude or whatever that like suddenly invades her house and effectively kidnaps her, and he's like, we gotta stop this vampire from like attacking you or whatever. And then like a vampire at some point manages to like kidnap her and like keep her at his house first as like a prisoner, but then she tries to kill herself, and then he keeps her at like a nicer condition place, like a proper bedroom and everything. And oh boy, I read some really poor fan fiction when I was like 10, and I really enjoyed it, and I thought that it was the greatest shit ever. Please don't rate my tastes. It still vaguely lives in my head rent free, but it's probably not on this site because the amount of stories saved was so minuscule versus the amount of stories written. So, Eyes of Blood, prologue. By the way, a lot of these things that have parts, as you saw, they're actually here, so you can like go and read the full thing. Would you rather give up your true love or your vampire throne? And this was written by xbapgirlx. Okay. Categories: horror, romance, Sims life stories. Even in the eyes of a vampire, the world is never safe, for life is full of unexpected twists and turns, never straight lines. Hi, my name is Holly. I want to thank everyone for reading this. I will only make the first chapter if the story is rated 5 stars. Extorting your audience early. I'm proud of you, girl. I had a wonderful time creating this story, so I hope you have as much fun reading it. I give thanks to all who made the custom content, and her sim self is like dressed in one of those like fishnet gloves that like end at the fingers, and like a red and black striped tee. And I swear I had like a red and black striped top that like was a hoodie. Just like that. And I definitely loved and adored like all of the fishnets. Like gloves that you could get, like fingerless and short, fingerless and long, and everything. Oh, this is such a throwback. But Xavier, she is a human, screamed Felicia, enraged. That does not concern me. I love her, and that is all that matters, said Count Xavier. But, started Felicia. But nothing, sister, Xavier interrupted. I love her, and you shall not interfere with our marriage. I am already having a child with Annabel. I cannot give up this life now, he continued. Okay, he managed to get a human girl pregnant. That's a new one. What? Yelled his sister, enraged. I cannot believe you would do such a thing. Have a half vampire baby. You must stop this before it is too late. Who will become the new count or countess? Well, probably you, considering that you're blood related to him. That is not my problem, yelled Xavier. But deep inside, he knew that it was his problem. He knew there were consequences, even for him. It is your problem. You know the punishment. You must find another love and get rid of that human, said Felicia, interrupting his thoughts. Then what am I supposed to do? I'm pretty sure she just told you, he screamed, half crying. Give up my true love for another of whom I care nothing about? You know that it is the right thing to do, said Felicia calmly. The next day, the Count was gone. He ran off to live with Annabel. Transporting that coffin with all the stone stairs would have taken quite some strength, so I just have a very cartoony image in my mind. As soon as he had gotten there, he went in the casket, for daytime was arriving. The child was born while he slept. I hope it didn't burn to cinders upon birth. When he arose, his daughter Elizabeth was fine, but Annabel was stabbed. Dead, murdered. The funeral was the next day. In Annabel's will, it said that she wished for her funeral to be held at night. He knew why. If the funeral was held during the day, he couldn't off attended. The funeral was horrible for Xavier. He also seems to be like the only participant in the funeral. No one was there to comfort him. Do you bury him? Did you bury her yourself? Who did she leave the will to? He felt as if his whole world was crashing down on top of him. He did not even have his daughter. She was taken away to foster care before he could get to her. He had nothing left. All he had was where fate took him. The only evidence of the crime was found along Annabel's mail. Only it was not meant for Annabel, it was meant for Xavier. All it said was, you knew it was the right thing to do, but you did not listen. Hi again! I pretty much explained everything at the beginning. Just so you know, chapter 1 will be 16 years from now at Elizabeth's home with her foster mother. Please rate 5 stars and sign my guest book. I love to hear from you guys. Chapter 1 will be a lot more interesting. I promise. Okay, I think this is enough reading stories for now. Thank you all if you had actually sat through all of it. I just wanted to give you a tiny sample, a tiny window into what was, and it's such a shame that we can't have a bigger window. It is so interesting to like revisit your old internet graveyard, especially when like old sites are concerned, and I feel like Sims 2 stories were just like one of those things. A lot of things that were not posted at the Sims 2 official EA forums and like official EA site would have survived longer. Like Mod the Sims website is still running. I think it also provides mods for The Sims 4, but I'm not too sure. But I know that there are still mods there for The Sims 2. I know that the forums are still up. Even if I don't think that they're super active, but they still exist. So if you instead decided to post your story into something like Mod The Sims forums, it would still be here in the 2024 instead of the meager pickings that we have here. But a lot of these are just like such a throwback to the writing that you were doing when you were like a preteen and a teen, to like the style and the looks and the custom content that people used at a time to like achieve the style and the looks that they enjoyed, that like mid 2000s, like at most like 2010s, maybe. Obviously, the site survived all the way into 2013, but it was actually down between like 2011 to like 2012 ish, and then it came back, and like then they took it down permanently. So there were quite a few years when people had trouble accessing it and when nothing was being uploaded. So majority of this would have been uploaded during The Sims 4, well, The Sims 2's lifespan, which was 2004 to 2008, with probably a little bit of activity in the next couple of years following. It's just such a shame that there was no proper archiving outside of what these sites are trying to do. I'm very thankful to them for that. It's such a shame that it's a fairly hard thing to visit, and it's also such a shame that the longer the video is, the worse it's gonna perform on YouTube, I guarantee it. So even like reading 3 stories means that the ability to read these stories will reach a lot less people. So if you're still here, if you're still watching, go to actually like clockwatching.net, Jack as to reader. Their link is gonna be in the description down below. Click into some of these, see if you like them. Read around. I know that a lot of them are just gonna be like silly kids writings, but that's the point. Nostalgia is kind of the point. Tell me of your favorite ones. Just like outright tell them in the comments. If the author has left an email address, actually do like attempt to email them. I bet a lot of these like email addresses are not even gonna be active anymore. But you never know. You never know what you're gonna find 20 years on. I'm now gonna thank all of my Patreons. Thank you for supporting me. Thank you for letting me make such diverse content because I make, well, come on, brain. I make Twitch streams. As if that's a thing that you make. I stream retro games. I make videos talking about video games. This is kind of part of it. I make videos talking about occult stuff. If you can, do share this video around. See if there's any of old The Sims 2 community like left to find hiding in some sort of nook or cranny. Especially if any of the authors of these works over here, if we can locate them and inform them that their work still lives on, that would probably be an awesome thing to do. Mine obviously doesn't, but trust me, you didn't lose much. So, thank you for being here. I hope I'm gonna see you in my other videos. I am planning to be talking about The Sims 2 in like a singular video out probably, yeah, sometime next week, because next week is when The Sims 2 turns 20. We also had a The Sims 4's birthday practically at the same time because it's turning 10 in September. I know that EA didn't do anything for it, even though I'm no longer playing it. I sometimes keep up with the people that do because they can be a delightful watch. The Sims 1 is gonna be turning 25 in February. I will do something special for that. I believe it's February anyway. Probably gonna do a couple of streams of that game, most definitely. Just like play around with it, have a bit of fun, then maybe do like a video talking about The Sims 1. And if we had saved so little from The Sims 2 era, The Sims 1 also was a creative tool, by the way. It also like supported writing stories, and that was a big part of it. We have like nothing of it practically at all. Like, it's too old. The internet forgot before it could remember, which is a shame. Because so many websites these days are being saved through the Internet Archives, through the Wayback Machine. There wasn't anyone to do that back then. There wasn't an Internet Archive or a Wayback Machine. But I don't know, maybe there was. Maybe nobody just bothered. So we just lost a lot of that, and it is a shame because it always is somebody's childhood. It is always something that people want to remember. It's kind of like losing Tumblr or losing MySpace or losing any kind of other creative expression place that people, use. You don't want that to happen. You want to be able to preserve the creativity that have happened in that like span of time. it was out there and that was up there. Regardless, at the very least, we got to celebrate a tiny, teeny bit of it. If you made a story yourself and you can still sort of remember what it was about, please tell me in the comments down below. I'm very interested to hear about it. Just let's do a bit of a nostalgia chat. I mean, it is a 20-year anniversary of a game. You know, why not? So thank you for watching. I'm hopefully gonna see you the next time in my other videos. Toodaloo.